welcome to the MindSET live stream. This is week 11, which I was just thinking about is it's almost when lockdown started, isn't it? Anyway, so this live stream is brought to you by Body and Soul, a charity working with people of all ages who have experienced trauma. My name's Daryl, and MindSET is just a simple way that we can share our approaches with you guys who might need some ways to manage distress at this time. And we'll be running this, and we run these sessions every week, and we pick different topics every week. Zoe's put up the thing about the survey. One of the things we're wondering is about whether we keep each week as a sort of a standalone session, or whether we do some more sort of complicated stuff that's linked week by week. So we would love to get your views on that. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to do a mindfulness exercise as usual, and then we're going to start thinking about emotions. Then we will have a time to reflect. So starting with a mindfulness exercise, what we're going to do today is sitting with your feet flat on the floor, your palms resting gently in your lap and upturned. What we're going to do today is you're going to sit and you're going to notice, right? And you're just going to notice what's going on in your body or your mind. But you only have three options. So it's like, some people like to do this with boxes, like imagine three boxes in front of you, or you should have three drums in front of you if you want. And as you notice all the time as it comes up, you're going to try and organize what is a thought, what is an emotion, and what is a body sensation. Yeah. So you might be like thought, emotion, thought, body sensation, thought, mind. Yeah. And you're just going to put them in each one, and you're not going to stop and hang around, because the next one's coming. Like emotions, like thoughts, like body sensations, they're constantly coming. So you can just go. Don't try to not get distracted by trying to analyze your thoughts, your emotions, or your body sensations. Just put them in the box and move on. And that's the mindfulness task. Put them in the box, move on. Now, you're going to get distracted when you do this, for sure. People always get distracted. We can't stop ourselves getting distracted. But what we can do is refocus our attention and go back to the task that we set ourselves. Now, some of you might be judging this now. See if you can let go of that. So just notice what comes in to your body. And we'll do this for a couple of minutes. Okay, so see if you can get hold of your attention and bring it back to the screen, into the room. Some of you are going to have found this difficult, and others of you less so, and that's okay. The mindfulness is not about relaxation. It's about focusing our attention. It's about being in this moment, and it's about accepting all the different things that go through us as they come and go. So I'd be interested to know that what some people's judgments about the task were before they did it, and how that changed afterwards. So some of you might have thought, "Oh, that sounds nice," and then afterwards they think, "Well, actually, that was pretty uncomfortable." So for me, I was pretty much thought. I noticed just lots of thoughts today. Whereas usually I don't notice body sensations, but mostly it was thoughts. It was like thought, body sensation, thought, and almost no emotions. I noticed just those different body sensations. Okay, so we're just getting some questions. Yeah. Right. So I noticed that some people were like trying to spread it out a little bit. I suppose the idea is just let it go. It's like if it's all thoughts, then it's all thoughts. If it's all body sensations, it's all body sensations. It's just information, right? Information about distress, information about emotions, just information. You know, sometimes you meet someone and you feel a sinking feeling in your stomach. It's just information about that interaction with that person. Okay, so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk a little bit about emotions, and I suppose, well, let me give you this scenario, right? So let's say that there was a group of monkeys, a group of apes, messing around by a lake. You know, throwing bananas, throwing poo at each other, picking nits off of each other, doing forward rolls and all of that. Just generally having a caper around by the lake. And while they're doing this, a crocodile comes out of the water and bites the head off of a baby crocodile, baby monkey, drags it into the lake and swims off. How do you think those apes, monkeys, how do you think they would react in that moment? So I would imagine that I imagine they'd be really distressed. They'd be beating their chests, they'd be screaming. The mother of this baby would be more distressed than others, and they would go through this set of actions. Okay. So if you were to go back to that lake a week later, or even a few days later, how do you think those monkeys would be behaving? Do you think that they would still be screaming and distressed and stuff like that? Or do you think they would be getting back to what they were doing before, which is doing forward rolls, throwing poo at each other, picking nits off of each other, you know, squeezing bananas out of their skins, and just doing what monkeys do? The chances are they'd be doing that. Yeah, maybe a bit wary, but doing that. Okay, so now let's say there was a couple of families. We have to let the social distancing idea go a bit, but there was a couple of families all huddled by the lake, having a day out on a picnic, and as they're all, I don't know, eating cucumber sandwiches and drinking Pims, playing with frisbees or whatever, a crocodile comes out of the water and bites the head off of one of the babies and drags its body into the lake and goes off with it. How do you think the humans would react in that moment? Sure, I think what they would be doing, they'd be shouting, they'd be screaming, and mum would be sad and crying, and maybe men would be running around, women would be running around, everyone would be running around, thinking about what to do. So if you think, what do you think that they would be doing a few hours later? I think if you went back to the lake a few hours later, what you might see is, I don't know, some people getting the boat ready, thinking they're going to hunt this crocodile down and kill it. I think there'll be other people that are still crying and feeling very sad. I think people will have moved away from the lake. And then again, if you think, what do you think would happen a week later? I think a week later, you might, you go back to the lake, what might you see? I think you might see some signs up, being careful, beware crocodiles. I think you might see some police tape. I think you might see some flowers, some kind of commemoration for the baby, stuff like that. I think the mother, if you looked at her, I think she would still be very distressed a week later. And then again, what if you were to go back a month later? I think if you were to go back a month later, what do you think you would see then? See, I think you'd see a more permanent sign. I think maybe you'd see a memorial. I think maybe they would have fenced off the lake. I think you would have had lots of other things happening then. Maybe people weren't allowed to go there anymore. Maybe maybe there'd be a ranger there or something like that. Anyway, the point that I'm making about this really is the difference between humans and animals is really emotions. And when you look at evolutionary psychology, or you look at evolution, it's emotions that have really helped human beings evolve. So there's different things that emotions do for us. And people that are kind of highly dysregulated, they often miss this. So what I'm saying to you is, what if you just don't understand emotions at all? What if you don't understand the difference between an urge for an emotion and what the emotion's telling us? So if you think about it this way, right, emotions are neither good or bad. Emotions are just a guide. They tell us what to do. And if you can understand your emotions, you would never be lost again, because you'd always have that guide. And I'm going to try and show you that and prove that to you in the next half an hour or so. So, emotions do three things. They organize us and they motivate us for action. Emotions tell, so if I was to throw something in your face, right, you wouldn't stop and think, oh, what's that coming towards me? You would just instantly react, and you put your hand up, or you squeeze your eyes shut. So what emotions do is they give us information very quickly when words would take too long. So they organize us, they motivate us for action. The other thing that emotions do is they give other people information. They tell other people. When you look at someone and someone starts narrowing their eyebrows and leaning towards you, what we pick up from that is that maybe the person's not quite understanding what we're saying to us. So they influence and they communicate with other people. So they're a guide. That's the kind of thing. And when you have issues around emotional dysregulation, as I was saying just now, that guide kind of lost with an urge. So have a look at this. Something I prepared earlier. Ta-da! Right. So what we have here, right, is an emotion and an urge. So what our desire to do is, and the point of it, right? So an urge is what happens when we first have an emotion. First have an emotion. We have an instinctive, like the monkey, got an instinctive response to do something. But actually, if we looked a little bit beyond that, what we would see is that the emotion is trying to tell us something. So I'm really hoping that that people can see this, and if they can't see this, then then do let me know early. Okay, so I'm going to take this one at a time for you, right? So first of all, right, when you're angry, right? When you're angry, yeah, it's clear, great. When you're angry, yeah, we all have an urge, right? And the first urge is to lash out, yeah, to lash out. And we can lash out in a variety of ways. We can lash out at ourselves. We can lash out at other people. We can lash out verbally. We can lash out with objects. We can throw stuff. Yeah. So the urge behind with anger is to lash out. Now, I'm going to go through all the urges, and it's a bit like, and also, so now you have sadness, right? When you're sad, what is your urge to do? Yeah, what is it that you really want? What is your urge, your first urge to do? And usually, it's to isolate, withdraw, or hide away. Now, what about when you feel anxious or fearful? What is your urge to do when you feel fearful, when you feel scared, anxious? Yeah. Usually the urge is to run away, run, hide, freeze. Yeah, and yeah, people are welcome to give different urges. Or what about when you feel shamed? You feel ashamed of what you've done. What's your urge then? To avoid, to hide away. So is it hide? Is it avoid? Is it to run away? And the same with guilt. When you feel really guilty, the guilt about your behaviour or something like that, what is your urge to do then? Yeah. Is it again to hide, avoid, isolate? Now, I'm going to leave happiness up there because we may or may not have time to get to it, but it is a really important emotion as well, as they all are, and they're all the guides. So, now, you see, when you look at the urges, right, what if your whole life, right, and this is what can happen with emotionally dysregulated people, that all you're doing is lashing out, withdrawing, hiding, crying, running away, freezing, avoiding, yeah? Can you see how you might have lived a life that looks like that? And if you've lived a life, cry is definitely in there. Yeah, if you've lived a life like that, then my proposition to you is that you're going with your urges and not understanding the purpose or the message that emotions are trying to give you. Emotions are trying to sort you out. They're trying to help you out, really. And now I'll show you this, right? So anger. What is the message of anger? Well, right. So what do people do? Well, look, at the moment, you can see there's loads of protests going around about Black Lives Matter, or and stuff like that. What are the people doing other than the ones that are lashing out? Right, this is a small minority or whatever. Yeah, what are they doing? What are they doing? What are they trying to achieve by doing this? Yeah, this protesting. Well, actually, what they're doing is they're trying to get something to stop or change. Yeah, they're trying to get statues removed. They're trying to get the police to change their behaviour. They're trying to get the law to stop giving extra punishments to certain people other than others. Yeah. So what actually anger tells us is that we want something or someone to stop or change. So you think about the last time you were angry, right? What did you want to stop or change? Yeah. So this would be something, someone to stop or change. Yeah. And that would be true every time you're angry. If we were also to look at sadness, right? When you're sad, when you're sad, what might you do? You might go to a doctor, you might go to a GP or something like that. What are they likely to do when you go to them? Well, what they're likely to do is one of two things. The one is they're likely to give you some medication, maybe if you've been sad for a long time. So the idea with sadness is about getting active and you could say getting active and problem solving. So when you go to the GP, he may give you medication. And what the medication is designed to do, through SSRIs or whatever the medications are, they're designed to activate you, to get you active. Yeah. Or if he's a different kind of doctor and they're doing this, look, still a GP, but they're doing this more and more, certainly in London anyway, something called social prescribing. The doctor might say to you, if you feel depressed, if you feel sad, they might say, go to the gym, join a gym, start a hobby, run around. Yeah. And what they're really doing is talking about becoming active. And actually, all the best evidence-based treatments in the world around depression all involve some kind of behavioral activation or some kind of activity. So it's either active or problem solving. Yeah. Of course, right, there are times when grieving is necessary. Yeah, I'm talking about the instant. Sometimes when you have a big event, then we grieve, and then we need to get active. Yeah, and I might come back if there's time. I might come back and talk to you about what happens when it's grief and the difference between grief and sadness. But essentially, get up and get going. It's a bit like when you're having a difficult morning and you wake up and you want to stay in bed and your urge is to isolate yourself. You probably feel better for the first 20 minutes while the urge is going on. But then when you stay there all day, it tends to change a little bit and you're no longer so content with that decision. Okay, so the next one is anxiety. And anxiety is exactly the same as fear. And with anxiety and fear, what we ask ourselves is this anxiety, is this fear justified or not? Yeah. So it's an important distinction. But the truth is that if you're anxious or fearful, you got to look at it means that your life is under threat somehow, or your health is under threat. So if your anxiety is justified, you actually just act. So if a lion walked into this room right now, I'd be out the window. I'm not going to sit there and look at the lion and go, is that going to kill me? It's big and it's So when fear is justified, we just act. All of our body systems kick in and we're gone. Yeah. But sometimes our fear is not justified. So say coming through the door was a man in a lion suit, and I still ran and jumped out the window. See, my fear wouldn't be justified. So if I stopped and had a look, I might think, what's that? Are those buttons for eyes? Is that a Velcro zip going up the front? They look like, you see what I mean? That looks like fake fur. So what happens sometimes is that when you go with the urge, you just run away straight away. But think about it, right? What would happen to you if you went to see someone and you had a fear of something like you had a fear of aeroplanes or you had a fear of spiders? Let's say you had a fear of spiders and you didn't want to have that fear anymore. What might they do? I think they would, what's traditionally accepted is what they call an exposure treatment. So they might start by showing you pictures of spiders, and then they might bring a spider and say, actually, there's a spider in the room, next door. And they bring the spider closer and closer to you. And they expose you to it. In the end, they might even get you to kiss the spider, but they bring it to you closer and closer so you can get used to it, and it will bring the anxiety down. So actually, the message of fear, when fear is not justified, is is to do more, to do more of that thing that you're afraid of, right? Because when you do that, the anxiety has a chance to come down. And what they're doing when they do that is, because if you're fearful and you do something that makes the fear go away, like run, then what happens is over time, I'll show people this quickly. Over time, what happens? So you get anxious, you do something to make the anxiety go away, drink or something like that. So the anxiety comes down when you do that. But what happens is, in future, your tolerance to it changes. So you sort of develop this system. And over time you just get more and more anxious, or your safety behaviors like the drinking or self-harm or whatever it is, just get more and more. Whereas what an exposure treatment does is it says, right, get as anxious as you can, do more of it, do more of it, do more of it. And when you get to the top of your fear, stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there, stay there, and keep looking at it. Give your brain a chance to see that it isn't going to kill you. Like a spider, a non-poisonous spider in the UK is not going to kill you, right? And then as you see that, your brain gets used to it, and boom, your anxiety comes down. And that's your new anxiety. And then over time, and this way of dealing with anxiety just makes it get worse and worse and worse. This brings it down forever. So the message of fear is to do more of. And now we were talking about justified and unjustified, and this same works with shame. But the thing to understand about shame is that shame is what's the purpose of shame? Well, actually, the purpose of shame is to prevent us getting thrown out of a tribe or a group or so friends, family, culture. Shame was designed to not make us feel excluded. So hundreds of years ago, when we lived in little enclaves and little villages, where all the food was kept in a big barn and the grain was shared, and people just took what they needed. If you went in and you took too much, or you took all the grain for you and your family, there would be a consequence of it. If people found out, you'd be thrown out of the village. And if you were thrown out of the village hundreds of years ago, you would die. And actually, what shame is, and so that's what shame was there to protect us from, right? Getting thrown out of the village. So if you get caught and you feel shame about what you've done, what you might do is you might say to somebody, well, oh, look, I'm really sorry. I shouldn't have done it. I shouldn't have taken all the grain. I realise it was a mistake now. I'm really sorry. I promise you, I won't do it again. And in fact, you know what? What I'm going to do is I'm going to leave the village. I'm going to go out and I see if I can hunt a big deer and I bring some meat back for the whole village and make it up. And once they've done all that, people still might be a bit annoyed at them, but you have to accept that consequence, right? So, and then you would let shame go. So, what the purpose of shame is, shame is about repairing things to other people, the people that might throw you out of your group. So, shame is about repair to others. And I think what we'll do is I'll send you a guide about repairing shame, or anguill. So I'll go through it. We repair the transgression. So we try to make it up to the person. We say sorry, we apologize. We commit ourselves to not doing it again. If people are annoyed for a while, we try to be graceful and accept that they have the right to do that. And then after that, there's nothing else you can do apart from let it go. The emotion has done its job. Emotions were not designed to stay around for days and weeks and months. So those of you that are going around feeling shamed all the time, it's not the purpose of it. Not the purpose of it at all. And now, when we come to guilt, it's the same mechanism. But what guilt is about acting against our own morals and our own values. So guilt is only justified when we have gone against what we believe to be the right thing to do, or the true, against our values. So guilt, rather than being to repair to others, guilt is about repairing things to ourselves. Yeah. So I don't know. I can't think of an example, but I will do. Repair to self. So I don't know. Say you go out one night and you get super drunk, but you don't believe that getting really, really drunk during this time of lockdown is helpful. What you might do to repair it to yourself is you might say, oh, I've let myself down here. I'm going to try not to do that again. I'm going to commit myself to not getting drunk, because when I get drunk, I ended up hugging people, and that wasn't that didn't fit with my values. So you'd apologize to yourself, you commit yourself to not getting drunk. Maybe you learn about your limits on drinking, how much you can drink safely before you go hugging people. You sort of have to accept that actually, oh gosh, I might have a hangover, or I might feel rough the next day, or it might be, and then again, you let it go. Once you've done that, the function of it is over. Okay, and then so I'm hoping that people understand that. I'm going to explain a little bit more about some of these if there's time, but I'll do happiness while we're at it, right? Because happiness is still an emotion, neither good, like any of these, neither good nor bad, but just information. So our urge when we're happy is to move towards something. Yeah. So for example, when I'm out walking on the streets or something like that, and I see, I don't know, white chocolate and raspberry muffin, across the road in a bakery, my urge is like, ooh, I lean forward. I'm like, is that white chocolate? Is that? And I lean towards it, And so I might go, ooh, or when you see a little baby out in the street and it's gurgling, it's got big chubby chops or something like that, your urge is to walk towards it and give them a little tweak. Yeah. So happiness is about moving. It is the urge to move towards. But what the message of happiness is, that what happiness is telling us is that we want more of something. So I want more of. Yeah. So whenever you start thinking about what makes you happy, it's usually along these lines. And so I know there will be people thinking, yeah, but why don't I just drink all day? Or why don't I just smoke drugs all day? Or why don't I do that? Because it doesn't quite work like that. So what I'll show you is how emotions join up. And that if you can join up the emotion, you can always get a clear message when you look at two emotions. So let's say, right, that I'm happy because I like raspberry and white chocolate muffins. Yeah? So I want more of it, so I eat them, and then I eat loads, right? So I have one emotion, and then the emotion that comes after it is I then feel depressed, or I then feel sad because I've eaten too much, yeah? What I might do is like, well, how am I going to solve that? Because actually my happiness is now making me sad. Well, the sadness would tell me to get active, so go to the gym or run around and burn off those extra raspberry muffins, yeah? Or I get happy until I keep eating those muffins, and then I feel anger afterwards. And I look at the message, something or someone to stop or change. So it's giving me a message, probably, that I need to change the amount of muffins that I eat, because it's having consequences because I'm putting on lots of weight. Yeah? Or it might be that I eat a load of muffins and I feel guilty for eating them. Well, what the guilt is telling me is I need to repair it to myself. So I need to get a system. I need to commit myself to not having so many. I need to repair my body. I need to, so I can go back again. I can go running. I can do exercise. I can do stuff like that. Yeah. And that's how the emotions work in groupings. And what happens in these groupings is that sometimes we have, so we always have two emotions coming together at the same time. And sometimes we get caught up in the first emotion, and we don't move into talking about the second, or thinking about the second emotion. So, any questions? I'm just going to have a look if there's any questions on that. So, is the message the same as opposite action? No, not always. Opposite action is a choice about is a choice when you have an emotion that either doesn't fit the facts of the emotion, or when you don't want to act on an emotion. So say someone's annoyed you, I don't know, you say someone's annoyed you and you don't want to be angry at them at that moment. I don't know, maybe, I don't know, your sister gets angry at you at her wedding about something, but being angry back at her would ruin her whole day. So you would want to not do it then. Maybe you'd want to speak to her later about it. That would, excuse me, that would be more a case of an opposite action. So you just might pretend everything's okay, or that you're still really happy for that day, and then address it later on. So the idea is that the emotions come in bunches, and it's these bunches of emotions that come together that give you information. And what we're talking about, and when I was talking about the two emotions coming at the same time, is we're talking about what they call primary and secondary emotions. And some people go with the primary, and some people go with the secondary. So for me, and sometimes we have problems with what we believe about emotions. So for example, I can remember years ago being racially abused on the street with my brother. And my brother, so they called me the N-word, and my brother's like, right, come on, let's just walk off. And my instant response is, what did you say? What did you say? And I went over and I asked, what did you say? Yeah. So we were both angry, right? But I don't, we were both probably scared, to be honest, but fearful, because there was a lot of them. So I don't like being scared. So I avoid being scared. So instead of being scared, I get angry instead. Yeah. So there are emotions that come in bunches, and we get options about which one to choose. Anyway, I'm just going to try. Yeah. So what we're going to do is we're going to send you some information on this and some worksheets, and just to have a look at it. What I really want you to do is just to start to notice how much you go with the urge and how much you go with the message of an emotion. Yeah? Which one? Where are you? Where are you in that? Because my suggestion would be down to that. So this is just an introduction to emotion regulation. And over the next few weeks, we're going to give you some information about this and maybe do a few more sessions on it. And then we're going to look at some of the relationship issues that come from it. So that's coming in the next few weeks. So that's your intro. Get you thinking about it. And also let us know. Okay, so as usual, I'm going to give you a little story. So once, a long time ago, there was a wise Zen master. People from near and far would seek his counsel and ask for his wisdom. Many would come and ask him to teach them and enlighten them in the way of Zen. He seldom turned anyone away. And one day, an important man, a man who was used to commanding people and getting people telling people what to do, came to visit the master and said to him, I've come today to ask you to teach me about Zen, to open my mind to enlightenment. The tone of the important man's voice was one that was used to getting his own way. Yeah, this is a guy with strong beliefs and opinions. The Zen master smiled and said that they should discuss the matter over a cup of tea. When the tea was served, the master poured his visitor a cup. But as he was pouring it, he poured and poured and poured, and the tea rose to the rim and began to spill over the table. And finally, it started spilling all over the man's clothes and everywhere. Finally, the man said to him, "Enough! You're spilling the tea all over. Can't you see the cup is full?" The master stopped pouring and smiled at his guest. "You are like this cup of tea, so full of yourself, your judgments, strong opinions, that nothing more can be added. Come back to me when your cup is empty, and come back with an empty mind and willing to take in some new information." And I'm hoping that some of you might look at this and might not have seen this before and would be interested enough to come in and take in some new information about the ways to manage and regulate your emotions. Okay, so I'm just going to check if there's any questions about this before we finish. Okay, so how much do you go for the urge and how much do you go for the emotion? For the message. Okay, so when deciding, really what we're really after here is we're asking you to move away completely from the urge of the emotion. Think about the emotion and think about how well is it serving you. Yeah, it's probably not serving you that well. There is a case for, when we're super sad, there is a case for some reparative work, but after, take being gentle with yourself and not getting active straight away. But everybody has to get grieving, and after grieving, everyone has to get going again. So ignore or try to overcome the urge and try to follow the message. And that's really, if you never want to be lost, or if you never want to be stuck in your life, this is the way to do it. And I think that what we'll try and do is give people more information about how to do this over the coming weeks. So I hope you found this helpful. There's not that many questions today, and usually when there's not that many questions, there's two things. It's either it was really clear, or people didn't understand it at all. And I'm gonna lure myself into believing it was because it was clear. But if it wasn't, which is also possible, then just send your questions in to Zoe, and we'll do our best. We'll do our best to answer them. And that is Mindset 11 over, and see you next week.